Without further ado, let's start the event. I also forgot to mention that the winners will be getting ABP Live goodies as well, so that's certainly a thing to look forward to. The following order for speeches was decided with the CS itself. So the first team going right now will be Don't Judge a Team by Its Name. So let's give them applause, everyone. Don't judge a team by its name.
Am I audible? Panel, so we're here to debate the motion This House celebrates the coming metaverse. First of all, I'd like to start my speech by characterizing what the metaverse is, right? So it's basically a network of these 3D worlds, virtual worlds, that is focused on social connections. It's going to be something that's going to be that's going to bring better social experiences for everybody online. It's going to bring the world closer to a very large extent. Before I get into my constructives, first of all, I'd like to talk about something that Op might come here and say, right? They might come here and talk about how it's not going to be very accessible to a majority of people who cannot afford this technology. At this point, I'd like to talk about how the internet at some time was also something that was not accessible to a lot of people, right? Computers, for example, they started off being one room big. They costed so fucking much. But at the point of time that we have reached right now, the world that we live in, it is something that has penetrated every aspect of society. Even villages which do not even have proper internet right now have these computers, right? The point I'm trying to make through all of this is how fast people adapt and how fast these really important technologies can penetrate into lives and just revolutionize lives to a very large extent. Moving on to my constructives, I'll be talking about three major things. First of all, I'll talk about accessibility and inclusivity. Then I'll talk about how the economy and the workplace is going to be completely revolutionized. And third of all, I'll be talking about how it's going to function as a means to get away and how that is actually a good thing. Talking about accessibility, let's talk about how by means of this metaverse, it's going to enable a kind of life that people could never have envisioned for themselves before, right? We talk about how disabled people are going to be living experiences. They're going to be scuba diving, perhaps. They're going to be living all of these experiences that their disability had previously prevented them from doing. At the same time, we talk about how it's going to bring non-remote areas of the world finally being brought into the sphere of the main society and finally getting equal opportunities as somebody sitting in a metropolitan city in America probably does, right? Furthermore, we talk about how it's going to give people, when we talk about inclusivity, and I need to talk about how people are going to be able to be themselves without any fear of the society that they live in, right? I'll get into this further in the third constructive as well, but here we need to address the fact that the thought of probably a trans person finally being able to live in the body that they identified with in the first place, right? That is that's the kind of human experiences that is something that they simply cannot get in today's world, which the metaverse can go ahead and enable for them, which is a huge benefit on our side, right? Moving on to the second constructive, which is related to the revolutionizing of the economy and the workplace. Here we talk about how there's going to be an insane amount of jobs being created, right? The reason behind this is that all of these virtual jobs that are created, all because of the fact that everything is going to shift into this virtual medium, what is essentially going to happen is that all of these stores are probably going to have virtual outlets. At the same time, there's going to be people who are required to keep this technology running, who are going to be required to not participate in probably redundant jobs anymore and actually be able to participate in something that they're passionate about and actually contribute to creating this online society that will function in the form of the metaverse, right? Next of all, we talk about how this technical awareness is something that is going to penetrate to every section of society. Like earlier I talked about the internet as well, and how that is eventually the end goal, right? That is what society is moving towards in the first place, and that is something that's going to be achieved by means of the metaverse. Lastly, I'd like to talk about how it's going to function as a means to get away for a lot of people, right? Here I'd like to bring in probably abuse victims, trauma victims and so on, how they're going to be able to get past their limitations and once again actually be able to experience life through the lens of these kind of experiences and live life through the lens of people who they wish they could be in the first place, right? How people in marginalized sections of society are finally going to be able to be themselves, like I earlier talked about as well, and how that is essentially going to entail a lot of features, how the metaverse is essentially going to enable a huge number of people in this world to finally be themselves and at the same time it's also going to enable technical awareness and the benefits of such a technical economy and the tertiary sector reaching to every single part of society, percolating in the way that it did in the cases which I previously talked about as well. Thank you. Very proud to propose.
Right, so today we are talking on the motion This House celebrates the coming of the metaverse. Right, and I'll be opposing this motion. Now, this is how my speech will be structured. I essentially start with with an argument about why metaverse is principally like wrong and how it's actually going to lead to more harm than good for the rest of the world, right? And then I'm going to move on to like more logistical issues, more practical issues with the idea of metaverse, while also giving examples of the current status quo, right, and the problems that persist in the current world. Right now, let us first talk about the principal aspect, right? What happens in metaverse, right? In metaverse, what happens is you're allowed to create an avatar, right, which is essentially able to do anything and everything under the sun, right? That's the potential of metaverse, as like site Gov already came and talked about. However, this potential, like this entire world of possibilities that metaverse opens to you, is in itself problematic. Because what is going to happen is that as a person, you're going to be attracted towards this world of possibilities, this world of online possibilities, this world of virtual possibilities, and you're going to essentially spend more time in this metaverse. You're going to spend more time online, right? When you spend more time in this metaverse, what you're going to do is you're going to miss out on actual real life experiences, right? When you're out there in the metaverse surfing, maybe, right, something which you might not be able to do at home, you're missing out on that personal connect, maybe with your brother, right? Because you're not spending like essential time that is required for like human connections, human relationships, right? So what that is going to do is it's actually going to turn us into people who are more connected online, but who don't actually have real connections, who don't have real life experiences. What that is also going to do is, we already know that the world around us currently is in shambles. There are a lot of problems. There's climate change. There are problems with like political systems around the world, right? And basically, it's not the best place to live in currently, right? And this metaverse opens up this world of opportunities where you can essentially control a lot of what is around you, right? You can change it for the better, and what it's going to do is it's actually going to help this like escapist attitude that people already have in this current world, right? And people are again going to spend more time online, and the motivation to actually change the world around them, the world around them that is already deteriorating, that motivation will decrease, right? So basically, what's going to happen is people are going to just spend more time online. They're going to spend more time trying to escape from this world that we're living in. Now, after like the principle, like after talking about like why the principle of all of this is wrong, I'll also be talking about some like practical and like logistical issues, right? Because like site Gov comes ahead and talks about how it's going to create more like job opportunities, how it's going to open up like a lot of possibilities for people, right? But what's going to happen is that a lot of physical jobs will actually be lost, right? Because as I talked about earlier in my speech, people's interaction with the physical world, that will decrease, right? And when people's interaction with the physical world will decrease, obviously people who are holding physical jobs which require more like personal interaction, more offline interaction with people, such people will end up losing their jobs, and they won't necessarily be able to adapt to the to this changing sort of world that we're living in, right? What's also going to happen is that the divide between the haves and the have-nots will increase, because because the have-nots anyways won't be able to afford the technology that is needed in order to like be a part of the metaverse, right? While the haves will be able to afford this technology, they will get access to all those opportunities that site Gov comes ahead and talks about, right? And what this will essentially do is this will just increase the divide, and it will only provide more opportunities to people who already had them to begin with, right? With that, I would like to end my speech. I'm very, very proud to pause. Thank you.
That was the first team of our finals. Moving on to the second team for today. That is going to be SGTB1. So let's have on stage SGTB1.
So what you've heard from the proposition speakers from the other teams thus far is that accessibility is an issue. Panel, let me be very clear here that accessibility is not an issue from the side proposition. From the side proposition, the major question that the side proposition needs to answer is whether or not the move that the humanity is making towards metaverse is something that should be welcomed, is something that should be celebrated, right? Whether the advent of metaverse is something that should be celebrated. Speaking of that, let me quickly talk about two goals that we have from side proposition. The number one goal is that humanity should have an opportunity to create the worlds which they do not have currently, to create a world which they customize according to their own will, right? The second goal then is that humanity needs to have sufficient space and time for them to indulge in creative endeavors, right? Panel, we are done with nurture. Panel, we are done with science and technology. We know how to create a convenient world. We know how to create a comfortable world. What humanity doesn't know today, and that's a very important part of our case, is that humanity doesn't know how to indulge in creative endeavors, how to indulge in literature, how to indulge in poetry, how to entertain each other as humanity. We fail when it comes to all of these things, right? These two goals that I've just stated all get fulfilled with the advent of Metaverse, which is exactly why we celebrate it, right? At that point, I want to quickly bring the two clarifications in this debate. Now, number one clarification is that the side opposition can at no point in time complain about virtual realities being created or complain about digital economies being created, because guess what? We are already neck deep into virtual worlds, right? For example, your Instagram presence is a virtual alternative to your real life personality. For example, your LinkedIn presence is a virtual alternative of your professional prowess. NFTs, cryptocurrency, these are clear examples of how digital economy is already flying. Which brings me to my first argument panel, and my first argument is that Metaverse is just an extension of the virtual realities humanity has already opted in consciously, voluntarily. Metaverse is just an organic evolution of humankind, right? What do I mean by that? I basically mean that Metaverse will do two things for you, right? Number one, Metaverse is going to let you create virtual worlds according to how you want these virtual worlds to be. If you are unsatisfied by the things that you have in this world, you can remove those parts in the virtual worlds that you create for yourself, or you could replicate the parts of the world that you want from this world to the virtual worlds that you're creating for yourself. The second thing that Metaverse does is that Metaverse eliminates certain inconveniences that are still there in this world, and I'll be talking about those inconveniences, right? So, speaking of how you can create the world that you want for yourself, Metaverse basically helps you customize a virtual world, right? And like I already told you, you can eliminate the parts that you want or you replicate the parts that you want. Now, there are certain inconveniences that humanity still faces. For example, if you want to buy a real estate, you still want to go ahead and be physically present around the real estate and like experience the real estate before you go ahead and buy it, right? Virtual reality eliminates that inconvenience because now you'll be able to buy the real estate that you want without really being in that physical space, right? And the inconvenience of such sort are going to be eliminated by virtual reality. What happens then? What happens then is that you as human beings have a lot of time to create and to indulge in creative endeavors, to indulge in endeavors which you really want. For example, you can talk about philosophy now because you have done enough of technology and science, etc., etc. Panel, this is where I give you the exclusive benefit from outside the house. The exclusive benefit is that you're getting the opportunity to create the virtual world. The opportunity that you get from outside the house is something that is gravely missing from their side of the house, right? What's the second argument then? The second argument is that virtual worlds built in Metaverse will give you an opportunity to create a personality of your own which you couldn't have in this world. And I will not take the ableist view in which they say that disabled people are going to be wanting to be abled in this world. It's just not about disabled people. It's about having the personality that you couldn't build in this particular world, right? Just like you put your Instagram filters and feel good about yourself, in Metaverse you're going to have your own avatars and feel good about yourself, which is exactly why I tell you that Metaverse is nothing but an extension of the world that you're already part of. Very, very proud to propose.
Panel, the side proposition comes here and paints a picture for us where the individual at the center of building this, getting this opportunity to build a world for themselves, right? But what the truth is that they're at a very misplaced position, because in the case of Metaverse, the individual is never at the center, right? It is never about the individual, it is always about the corporates which are backing this technological advancement, right? A very, very easy example in the real world is how the Twitter's new fees for verification, or how arbitrarily people are removed from these social media sites. This is a manifestation of how individual is never at the center of corporate ambitions. It is always the interests of these corporates and the leaders which is always at the center, and that is something that we really need to understand the side proposition. Now, coming on to the point of creative endeavors that they brought out in this debate, this is a very privileged notion coming from the side proposition where they say that we are done with technology, yeah, right? Technology is not about creative endeavors. Technology should be about egalitarianism. Technology should be about solving the problems of real world. What are these problems? The problems that we face today, they are climate change, right? The problems are climate change, the problems are poverty, the problems are inequality and opportunity. That is the problems, and technology should aim to solve these problems and not pursue creative endeavors because they don't have anything else to do, right? And these are the 2 points where the side proposition is really misplaced. Now, Side proposition comes here and tells us that the metaverse is a manifestation of evolution, social evolution. But the truth is, it is not evolution, rather it is a product of corporate ambition, right? Because it is evolution when there are societal needs, right? But it is not a result of societal needs, rather it is a result of it emanates from the ambitions of these corporates. What are the ambitions that we're talking about? The ambition to control realms of human interaction. What realms of human interaction are we talking about? Social realms of human interaction, economic realms of human interaction, the political realm of human interaction. That is what the corporates aim to achieve and control. Total control over an individual, right? It looks, in the societal aspect, it looks like something like the ability of these MNCs to shape public opinion, popular public opinion. How do they do that, right? You're so engrossed in this audio video stimulation that it is these corporates which are going to provide this input, right? The cognitive input, it is going to shape your cognitive pattern, how you're going to think, how you're going to act in this world. And that is why we say that metaverse is going to dictate social interaction to the individual, and that is how it shapes their social interaction in the social realm of human interaction, right? In terms of economics, it is very clear. It is all about the ability of these MNCs, of these corporates that are backing the metaverse, their ability to manipulate their resources for their own gains, manipulating data, manipulating analytics for their own economic gains, and that was very prevalent in how we see during the NFT fad, when NFTs worth thousands and thousands of dollars are now worth nothing, they're worth dirt, and that is how they manipulate people to just get the cash out of their pockets, right? Because that's all they want. It is all a product of their own ambition to have total economic control over the individual sphere of life. Now, very important aspect is the political aspect of life, right? State will be no longer at the center of political authority. Alternate universe requires the question of an alternate governance, right? Where will I go if my avatar gets hurt? So if my avatar gets molested, where will I go? I can't go to the state because state does not have an apparatus to solve these issues, right? I will eventually have to go to the MNCs, and MNCs will slowly capture the political power in their alternate realm. Now, very important question is the question of equality, right? We should be rather focusing on things like solving global issues and not talking about what does discourse mean, right? What does it mean when you say that celebrating metaverse? Celebrating means making it a part of popular discourse. Why we should not make it part of popular discourse? Because it will be diverting our attention from important issues to issues such as monkey NFTs. That is not what the world needs to think right now. The world needs to think about global poverty and issues like that, right? Another thing is the main problem is the sheer centralization of power that is going to happen. The interaction, social, economic, political that you have talked about, all of this is going to be centralized in the hands of an individual who will be leading this company, who will be backing metaverse, right? And another thing is why, in conclusion, metaverse is a manifestation of new age capitalism which wants to consume everything and anything. We have heard about colonialism, we have heard about neocolonialism. It is the colonialism of an individual's very mind and the way that they behave. And with that, very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Participants are requested to kindly not go over their time. 4 minutes is the limit. Okay, so moving on to the next team, the third team that we have, Pravriti Disciples.
A very good evening to one and all present here. So today I am standing here to speak in favor of the motion as per the given topic, and our topic is this: house celebrates the coming of metaverse. Let us understand this keyword metaverse in a simple manner. We all have seen our images in the mirror, isn't so? We all have. So just like that, metaverse is all about a replica of this real world. Isn't it feel so exciting? Because our dream lists are going to be fulfilled now. The places which you wanted to visit is now in your reach. You are able to reach that place just because of this metaverse. Metaverse not only help us to visit our dreamland but also provide so much insights from it. Congratulations, congratulations. Your business market is going to expand now. It wouldn't be confined to any particular place, city, or state, or country. On contrary, your ideas of business will reach throughout this globe. And people who are like you will connect with you, and I hope you will create some wonders in the future. People who are specially abled and to whom many people used to forget, our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister has given a term, Divyang. I hope you all have heard about them. Divyang are also going to connect with their desirable people just because of this metaverse or the 3D world. Isn't this metaverse is taking care of humanity as well? I think so. Let's come to the communication scale. We all used to stammer a lot in front of anyone meanwhile we are talking. But if we are interacting with so many people, just with the help of this metaverse, friends, your skills are going to be enhanced. And secondly, you would truly get so many ideas which you could inculcate in your day-to-day life. And definitely, you are also going to do so many good things in your life ahead. The metaverse will take people or will let people more accurately see and interact with physical objects as if they were real, Conda said. A car shopper, for example, could visit an auto dealer in a fully immersive spatial world, examine a model and test drive them as if in the real world. One of my opponent has said that interaction is in this real world is going to be decreased. My friend, I just wanted to ask you that in present generation, how many people are going to meet their guardian or going to meet their grandparents in this physical world I'm talking about, real world I'm talking about. Let's consider 40%, 50%. What about the rest? They aren't able to meet their parents or the grandparents. What's the reason? Because they are at a far distance. Now, just with the help of this metaverse, they can fulfill or they can fill that gap of this disconnection or miscommunication from the parents. So I think that you have seen only the one side of a coin and not the other side of the coin. Therefore, I'm wholeheartedly celebrating the coming of metaverse. By these lines, I would like to give rest to my words. Thank you. Have a cheerful day ahead.
First of all, a very greeting to all of everybody here. So I am talking about in the against of the motion. That is the how celebrate the coming metaverse. I basically wanna ask you, what are you celebrating? Death of your loved ones, like the PUBG and the other apps did to the Indian young ones. We are celebrating the death of our young ones. So let us come to the world. What is a metaverse? Metaverse is basically a virtual world using the 3D virtual social network connection and using the help of the headphone and the special glasses. Basically, it's totally a game world. And so I am here with my counter argument with my opponent. So first of all, it's totally unethical. And let me give proof of this here. Before it is the news of the before some days in the metaverse world itself, a woman was murdered. This was our ethics. Second thing, it will lead to the sensitivity as well. The God has gifted us the most precious thing, that is the emotions. The metaverse world will basically damage our emotions, which are basically distinguish the human creature from all the other species. Okay, now coming to the next point, if we are promoting the metaverse, then I will ask my opponent from where you will get the income. The government is not able to provide the two-time meals to the people, and you are talking about the metaverse world, talking about the investment in the metaverse world. Let's be practical, yeah. And basically, what do you want to say? The power should be land into the hands of the capitalists. Then what is the use of the democracy here? Basically, you are promoting the capitalist economy, which led to the world, the middle class family and the poor family suffer a lot in the colonialism, as we see in the back. And what about the addiction? What about the addiction? Example is from the India here itself. The PUBG led to the death of the many young ones, and if they had been given info about the not inculcating in these activities, then might be someone was here to debate with me as well. So basically, what is the basically metaverse is the loss of the human as well as the monetary resources. And let us talk about the security and the what about the fraud happening in the digital payments as well. The fraud is happening in the digital economy, and you are talking about the connecting the whole world with the metaverse. Be practical, laugh out loud. And this will be there will be greater chance that the carbon footprints will increase, and there is a big money trap as well. as they will take money from us and give us the coin which can't be used converted into the money back. So basically it's a trap. Only I can only be those coins can be only be used in the virtual world. And what about the poor section of the society? Basically, opponents, I will ask, are you promoting the discrimination? Now, where your ethics has been gone, where you are talking about the discrimination has been gone, where are your constitutional values? Basically, you are supporting the discrimination itself. Let us consider a practical fact. We are all have faced the severe server down problems in the site. All of us have faced. For the people, how many people are there on the site when the server is down? 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, basically when the result is announced. So, and we are talking about basically connecting the whole world. Let's be practical. Thank you. Have a nice day.
3 down, 3 more to go. The fourth team on stage is going to be times down.
The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. This was said by Mark Zuckerberg, who, an engineer like me, changed the world in his 20s. So before we talk about the metaverse, let's talk about social media and let's talk about Facebook. Because that's what the op will have to try and convince me that the house, as rational people of the world, do not celebrate Facebook. So let's talk about what Facebook brought to us, and let's essentially talk about all of the benefits that Facebook brought to us and how the metaverse is linked to it. First of all, let's talk about how Facebook brought the entire world online, especially during COVID-19 when people could not meet their loved ones. Social media essentially was the only way they could interact with the people that they used to talk to, with the people that they need to talk to. That's the only kind of social interaction that people really had left with them during an era like COVID-19. So what Facebook gave to us is a lot of job opportunities as well. It brought the entire world online, etc., etc. So I don't believe I need more characterization on how the house, as rational people of the world, would celebrate Facebook. So now let's talk about what the metaverse is. The metaverse is a concept that refers to a virtual shared space created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality and physically persistent virtual reality. The metaverse is probably the potential solution for the issues that we face during COVID-19. It's probably the biggest solution that we have towards the issues, for example, how we did not really have any kind of social interaction. It's the biggest solution towards that. It has what social media provides us, and it has all of those benefits in a more enhanced and immersive way. In the future of virtual reality and the metaverse essentially as a whole will have a reality in which you can actually see people, you can actually be in another environment. You can probably be a young boy in Bangladesh who can visit the Eiffel Tower. You could probably be a young kid in Kenya who could get Stanford education sitting in the classroom, sitting virtually in their classroom. That's the kind of benefits that exist in my paradigm. I'm going to give you a 7-fold argument. First of all, we'll have increased social connection. The metaverse will allow people to connect and interact with each other in a virtual space, which can help reduce feelings of isolation and loneliness, which was all the more prevalent and all the more relevant during COVID-19. We'll have improved education and training. The metaverse can be used as a platform for delivering education and training content in a more interactive and immersive way. That is something that we see, that we all use lectures online, we all go to YouTube for lectures, etc., etc. So therefore, we all understand this point very easily. Enhanced entertainment. The metaverse can offer new forms of entertainment such as VR games and experiences. All of us have gone to malls, all of us have been to fun cities. We know how much fun it is to have a VR headset on top of our heads and watching a new reality. Increased productivity. The metaverse can allow people to work together and collaborate more effectively, leading to increased productivity. Not only that, people living in remote locations can work, and remote work has already become the norm. Work from home was the norm during COVID-19. Greater accessibility. The metaverse is linked to my previous point of increased productivity. How it can make it easier for people in far-off remote places to actually be a part of society as a whole. Also, and very importantly, new business opportunities. The development of metaverse can create new business opportunities, and that's something that we saw with social media. How now people are literally influencers. Their work is literally just to record videos and put their life on the internet. In the metaverse, that's going to be way more relevant. And finally, you have a new identity. You can be whoever you want to be. A disabled person can experience what it's like to run. A trans person can experience what it's like to be in the body of someone whom they feel they belong in. A young kid can be a superhero, and so on. Finally, let's talk about what the opposition is going to talk about a dystopian future. They're going to talk about the Ready Player One and other series and films like that. We need to be optimistic. We need to be optimistic about this because as rational people, if we don't welcome such technologies, and especially because as an engineer, if I'm not optimistic and if I don't dream, if I don't celebrate new technologies, then who will build the universe, or in this case, the metaverse? Thank you so much. Proud to propose.
The metaverse, touted as a new worldwide technological revolution, is nothing but a honey trap by corporations to lure in and more efficiently manipulate people, disconnecting them from the real world and manipulating them and making them dance to their whims. How so? Firstly, corporations know about mechanisms that make these products more addictive and hooking, right? So realize these corporations don't form products; they form habits, right? So when this habit is something, this product is something that's more immersive than even the current state of social media, by virtue of you being immersed in literally a new environment, right? Imagine the amount of control that these corporations have over you, right? Especially sensitive and impressionable audiences like kids and teens, this is akin to a social isolation, trapping them in cages which distort reality for them. These kids are not able to acquire marketable skills and education which would guarantee them future employment. These kids would now be having sedentary lifestyles, right? They would start becoming more obese, and they would face a host of optical problems, right? Their eyes would probably be severely affected due to this, right? And more importantly, there are a host of issues related to cybersecurity and cybercrime that these kids now face, right? Wow, what do these look like? Firstly, hackers can easily steal identities in the virtual world, right? Your identity in the virtual world is very fragile, and somebody who is technologically competent enough can go ahead and steal this, right? This person can literally, masquerade as you, impersonate you, and do whatnot with your identity and your resources. Secondly, bullying is now more immersive, right? Realize, panel, that these people are getting bullied more easily in a more immersive environment. Moreover, it is easy for the bully themselves, right? Because of the lack of consequences. Because there is no legal consequences for crimes in the metaverse, right? And because of the fact that there are no legal consequences for crimes in the metaverse, individuals have no deterrent whatsoever to stop committing virtual crimes, which in turn would make crimes like shooting, assaults, and molestations really commonplace, right? Simply because there's no laws in the metaverse to effectively govern and deter these, right? This in turn would desensitize people to the consequences of these crimes in the real world, right? So naturally, people would become more violent. They would start committing these crimes on a greater and grander scale, right? So second, lastly, proposition brings us this very fancy idea of, you can be whoever you want to be. But realize this in itself is very dangerous, right? Because the people who are there, a significant chunk of the people who are there on Metaverse are introverts who are probably, desperate for human interaction, people who can't really make a lot of friends in the real world and stuff, right? Realize, panel, these people who can make avatars of whatever they want effectively have the ability to catfish and capitalize on these people's desperation, right? And can in turn coerce them into doing many things that are probably not the most ethical, right? Also, now let's talk about some issues of data privacy, which I'm concerned has not been brought up in this debate so far. Facebook is already very notorious for leaking data of individuals, as proved by the scandal of Cambridge Analytica. So our trust in the corporation is already on very, very shaky grounds. So they have complete control over identities and whatever environment they subject us to. What do the impacts of this look like? Firstly, intermingling of political parties with these platforms, right, which can use this degree of immersivity to support and propagate their political ideologies, and are thus able to polarize people more effectively and propagate their propaganda. Secondly, MNCs acting in what is in their best interest rather than providing the democratic and hunky-dory accessible experiences to the individual, right? Using the private data and personal preferences that all of them have, simply because most individuals aren't really smart enough or intellectually able enough to differentiate the amount of data that they actually give these corporations. Consequently, the picture that proposition paints of all hunky-dory accessible experiences is tainted by the ease of manipulation and the fact that these individuals are literally gobbling up whatever politically jumbled corporate customized content the metaverse and actively wishes to establish a tech monopoly is giving them. With that, very, very proud to oppose.
The next team is Legal Spirits.
Greetings, judges, fellow debaters, and members of the House. The motion before the House is that this House celebrates the coming of a metaverse. To break it down into simple terms, as my preceding speakers have done, a metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds which are focused on social connections vis-a-vis digital means. Let me emphasize the importance of a social connection. We have three main stakeholders that benefit in this whole process: the citizen, the government, and the corporates. Moving on to the citizen. We are in a globalized world, and the mere fact that we are able to broadcast this whole debate to 1 million viewers serves to justify how easy social connection has become. It was only after a virulent virus struck our core that we realized the importance of addressing social connectivity for the citizen. Enter the metaverse. Metaverse helps us not only to connect, but it transplants reality into the virtual world. The biggest perk of that is, simply understand. For me, debating took 3 years to let go of the fear of speech. But if someone was offered a platform for not just being able to talk comfortably, but also to feel like talking in reality, that is a big boost to their social morale. We are a diverse people, and while some may be extroverts and most are shy and hesitant to approach people. However, so may our nature be, we need connectivity. We are, as Yuval Noah Harari stated, a social animal, Homo socius. For those opposition speakers addressing social anxiety and concerns of loneliness, the pandemic has forced us to move to our homes. And who is to say that this is the end of pandemics? As I speak, the latest variant of COVID is still being tested. We can't always stay locked up without a means to communicate. We ultimately want to live, at least artificially, in a world that resembles ours. We will want mental stability. Moving on to the second point, that is cooperates. Avatars, buildings, concerts, and reality make it really more participative. I mean, when did we ever imagine Harvard professors taking classes or thousands of people listening to foreign diplomats from the comfort of their houses? It seems like a distant reality when online webinars were a rarity. In this setup, the metaverse serves as the only logical corollary in the up-and-coming digi sector. The world is a digital village, and that is a known fact. Metaverse sets up a whole idea of a digital economy that is not just fast, but user-friendly as well, and provides employment to the vast number of IITians and software engineers that end up being like the IIT Chaiwala. It is a transition from a village to a digital city, and big foreign moguls have their customer bases in countries like India. It is a known fact, we all know this. And with the addition of a virtual world, these MNCs will only have the incentive to invest more. As stated by a proposition speaker, we have the opportunity to experience reality without having to undergo the rigors of the same, and have it at your own comfort. Where's the harm in that? Moving to my last point, I talk about government. Let me state that governance is not over. Dubai has successfully incorporated a paperless government. Even in our own homeland, Tripura has successfully incorporated a paperless government. Courts are going online, judgments are given online, classes are held online, and even applications are done online. In fact, we enrolled in this debate online. To sum it up, this basically is communication from the comfort of your own homes. What more do we really need? And when the whole world has moved to a global city, why shouldn't we? Thus, I proudly propose.
Good evening, my name is Abhinandan Adhikari and I will be going against the motion that this house celebrates the coming of Metaverse. Now, members of the house, before we begin, we need to know that the speakers for the proposition haven't been able to define Metaverse. So let me tell you what Metaverse is not. Metaverse does not eliminate nor is an alternative for anything. It is just an exclusive world that the rich have created for themselves to use their excess cash and money, obviously, after buying anything and everything inside this world. Second, no one will teleport to any digital world and leave this world automatically. And third, even on a Sunday after a point, I just cannot look at my mobile screen using Facebook, Instagram, as people have mentioned. And lastly, to give you an analogy, cryptos were once the fashion and the craze, but its fall has been more glorious than its rise. Now, members, we know there are three stakeholders, as the speaker before me mentioned. That is the citizen, the government, and the big tech companies. Now, there are a lot of problems, as they also define. For example, big tech companies. Now, they would have monopoly over the data, even the sensitive ones that we are going to share on the platform. Secondly, they would have unchecked powers. No one is going to keep a tab on anything and everything that they are recording out at each and every second, each and every minute. When we talk about the government, there would be a huge bureaucratic upheaval. New offices have to be created, new departments have to be created for looking into these new technologies that are going to be accessible to each one of the countrymen, to each and every citizen, right? There need to be reformed laws, a new system of check and balances which would create an additional pressure on the government, and also keeping in mind the constrained budget and the fiscal policy that we have. And lastly, when we are talk about the citizen, there are a plethora of problems that I'm going to define ahead, right? So here comes the problems in the entire debate that we have with Metaverse. I am going to give you 9 different points. First of all, let us talk about some really small points. For example, miscommunication. Now, when I'm talking on call, there are instances when my friend thinks I'm being rude because of my tone. But suppose if we are interacting in person, right? You can read my eyes, you can read my lips, there are gestures, there are hand movements that I can do from which you can understand that I'm not being rude, instead I'm being polite. Secondly, events. People say that we would have now concerts and musical events on Metaverse, but can we imagine attending a AP Dhillon concert on Metaverse and just vibing like this? No, we cannot, right? We need to be there in person with our friends to enjoy that concert, even 1%. Secondly, now this second point is also my first rebuttal. The people for the proposition have stated adaptability and penetration of the internet. Now, 2 problems. First of all, it is not like internet. Why? Because more than half of India still does not have internet, and if we go south in whether it be Africa or South America, the problem is going even more downhill. Secondly, the cost factor. Now, cost factor is also my second problem. First of all, the cost of the equipment that we need, for example, the desktop, computer devices, modem, signal, transistors, everything is very expensive. The average income of an Indian is just rupees 20,000. Now, whether this person would, utilize this money for healthcare facilities, educational facilities, or invest it in Metaverse, that is questionable. And as we move even more towards the global south or talk about the global poor, the income levels of people keep depreciating, right? Now let's come to the third point, that is social anxiety and loneliness. We all know that being, as my friend also mentioned, we are homo socius, right? So there is a sense of interconnectedness that we need to feel at a daily level. We need to connect with our peers, our friends and family members. That would not be possible in person if we move towards the world that we are now calling Metaverse instead of the world that we are living in. The next point is about privacy and security. As my friend before also mentioned about the Facebook scandals, these companies such as Facebook, Google are notorious and have been known for selling the data of the customers or the users that they are using, right? Also, let us be more pragmatic. The government has a limited budget, right? Only a limited workforce could be just concluding, deputed to keep track of this, right? So because of this, there are a lot of problems that would get unaccounted for, and these big tech companies also play a major role in manipulating data and etc. Thank you. Having said that, proud to oppose.
Last but certainly not the least, I invite Team Mavericks to wrap up today's debate.
Greetings, everyone. So, how do you see yourself in 10 years? No, I'm not asking you an interview question for the job. I'm just asking you about your daily life. How do you see yourself in 10 years? I'll go first. I see myself in the world with absolutely no barriers against socializing, against communication, and doing myself stuff and experiencing and having experiences about everything that I've ever wanted to do without any real-time obstacles. The technology that we use today, that we see now, that has provided us with abundance of advantages and opportunities is just one step towards the development of a greater and more collective virtual space, a more virtually enhanced reality. We're just one step towards the development of Metaverse. But you would ask, what would it mean for us in the real time? Number 1, no geographical barriers. It is a virtual space where people could meet, interact, and even perform education, business, and other operations in that virtual world. Basically, almost all the activities of real world can be done without even moving from one place and without any real-time obstacles. So the geographical barriers that have hindered many functions of many businesses, of many educational platforms, can perform them with some tools at home. The technological development also means a greater attraction for the FDIs or foreign direct investments. It can be attraction for the companies and the huge multinational corporations for a wider and a bigger platform for doing businesses and interactions with the users from all across the world. It can be an attraction for the space and it can be an attractive space for the product testing activities that usually require huge capital, time, and effort of the business corporations. Second, development of developing countries, both economically and socially. The lack of geographical barriers can be beneficial in increasing the accessibility of education and immediate healthcare advices to people and places we have still not covered. This can help in improving the standard of living of people in the short and the long run. Additionally, the Metaverse can lead to an immense rise in the participation of these countries on global platforms that weren't accessible to them earlier, and hence can provide people with new economic opportunities. The rise in education, healthcare, and new opportunities can hence lead to the development of developing or underdeveloped countries in the long run. Number 3, personal development of people. The metaverse can help in establishing and building better and new connections for social and cultural exchange. This would ultimately provide them with greater opportunities for self-exploration, self-expression, boost creativity, and will help them reach their mass audience by providing them a collective virtual environment. Thus, people can create, experiment, and share without any real-time barriers. Number 4, growth in GDP. Since metaverse obliterates the real-time barriers that usually hinders a business operation, it can help in facilitating business deals, investment pitches, buying, selling of goods and services, and can thus increase in the economic activities of the country overall. This can hence increase the GDP of the country. Further, the technology itself brings in new career opportunities, new jobs that can help people and country economically. While there may be certain concerns regarding the security of the data, but with certain legislative regulations, we can ensure that the security of our data, the security of our identity over the metaverse is maintained and is secured. And this is not something that cannot be tackled. And do not forget that we had the same concerns, we had the same criteria for the internet as well, and we all know how deeply penetrated it is in our society and in our world. This we cannot forget, and we cannot oppose to the fact that metaverse can provide billions and billions of opportunities to people, to nations, and to the world. Thank you.
Okay, good evening everyone. I'm speaking against the motion and I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Well, let's imagine that you entered the world of metaverse in your avatar and the entire fascinating, distinctive and beautiful world. You are enjoying yourself and enjoying the world of metaverse in your avatar, but suddenly another stranger avatar comes to you, starts molesting you, starts harassing you and verbally accuses you. And before you could figure everything out, he shoots you and here, you are dead. What impact would that have in your mental state? What impact would that have at your mental psychology? Though people make distance physically in the metaverse spaces, but what about mentally? Do they make distance mentally? I'd like to point out an example here about a woman in meta space, the Facebook's virtual reality space, Horizon's World. She claimed that she was virtually raped by 7 men while others watched her and passed a glass of vodka. And this is a real incident which happened in Horizon's World, which is Facebook's virtual reality world. The sexual act was obviously non-consensual, and many women's avatar are being groped by strangers verbally and mentally, and are being sexually harassed every now and then in metaverse spaces, and there is no attention being paid to them. Do we have legislative provisions to address such concerns? Do we have rules? Do we have laws? Because there is no physical interaction and there is no intimate connection, there is no legislation involved as well. So there can be no allegations, there can be no control, and there is absolute freedom given to the avatars in the virtual world to do absolutely whatever they wish to. So cyber crimes, frauds, child exploitation, cyber attacks, virtual bullying is increasing day by day in metaverse spaces, and this is being extremely toxic in nature. Metaverse implies decentralization and lesser control by the government. So the proposition of decentralization in metaverse spaces is also creating a hurdle in effective control in such metaverse spaces. Now I'd like to talk about the major stakeholders, which are the youth and the children, who are the future of the country, future of the economy, and what impact does it have on them. Imagine a kid playing a Google's tilt brush while he is in a virtual world playing with clouds and move of a wrist, bringing change in the environment and everything, and cut to the present time when he witnesses the monotonous real world, and this would create disconnection from the real world and would lead to addiction, and also he would want to escape reality more so than ever. The severe health consequences that youth and children have are optical consequences, mental health consequences, auditory and sensory consequences as well. The probability of VR hangovers, which implies motion sickness, increases to a credible extent when we talk about metaverse. depression, constant despondency, manipulation, exposure to abusive content, and believing in false information also increases in when we talk about the metaverse spaces and the kids being indulged in such spaces. The kids also spend the time unproductively in such spaces despite of doing something creative and which involves actual their inputs in any activities. They don't indulge in those and they rather indulge themselves in gaming and these worlds. Apart from this, the major disadvantages of metaverse are privacy and security concerns because the privacy invasion can be intense and invasive. The data can be secreted to dark web and it can lead to data violation and extreme control. Identity hacking could take place because the stealing of identity is quite easy and hacking can take place as well. Inequality would surge because the rich-poor divide and it excludes the metaverse excludes the individuals with visual and auditory disabilities. It increases. There are huge costs involved in environment and the corporate it exposes the economy to corporate takeover. Thank you.
So we come to the end of start of the debate now. A huge thank you to the CAs for being here. A huge shout out to the team at ABP Live for being our broadcasting partners. A huge shout out to Sarvagya, Arshya, Tanish, Shashank, Mayur, Shashank Chaudhary, all of you guys. This would not have been possible without you. Also, the entire technical media team sitting here, the ones who did not come are not thankful at all. But the ones I am really thankful for you guys, the entire ADC team, thank you everyone for being here. I hope you guys had a good event. And hand opening the mic to the CS now for the results. All the best everyone. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Firstly, I hope that this motion led to quite an interesting debate and you all actually enjoyed preparing for the motion and what you'd get to say. And like much to our surprise, I think each of the teams gave a very interesting argument, and as the debate went on, we saw how each of these arguments developed. So after having decided how the teams debated, I will just be announcing the results in the order of the team placing third, the team placing a runner-up, and the winning team. The team placing third is the team Times Now. Congratulations. The team placing second is Don't Judge a Team by Its Name.
And lastly, the winning team is SGTB. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
हमारे जूम रिकॉर्डर सारा ऑडियो
Thanks everyone for a fun round. You all gave great speeches, so yeah, it was fun judging you all. Thank you.